Hello there, I'm the Hung from the band Titwinkle, and this is Food for Rock. On today's episode, I'm taking you back to 1983. Scarface was in the movie theaters, The Black Adder was on TV, and five lads from Sheffield were burning up the rock tracks with their album Pyromania. These boys changed rock and roll. They brought melody and power ballads and power music to the masses. And the song that really inspired me is a song called Too Late for Love. That song uses soft, melodic parts with heavy guitars and builds up. It is a trope that myself and my co-conspirator, Slickfinger, my bass player, love to do in our own music. So if you ever get a chance, you can listen to some of our songs and see where our inspiration comes from. So, what food will go with this comfort music? Well, I make a nice meat sauce that has a bit of tanginess to it, a bit of spiciness to it, and I mix it up with linguine. This is Slickfinger's favorite food that I make. In fact, I got to be careful when I make it, not make too much, because he eats it and eats it and eats it so much that forget Def Leppard, he becomes a fat leopard. And so I got to keep him out of the kitchen when this happens. Now, folks, you got to remember, when London boys are grazing, it's never too late for linguine. It's time to cook. And let's begin. So let me introduce what I like to call the band or the ingredients. This is a simple dish. If you haven't cooked before, do me a favor, try it. This is not that hard. And I'm using some ingredients that you can just find at any regular grocery store. So the first thing we're going to look at is the main star, the lead vocals of the ingredients. That's going to be the ground beef. I'm using lean ground beef, but sometimes I'll use fatty ground beef, but it's kind of hard to find. Everybody's eating lean. Nothing wrong with having a little more fat in your diet. Mushrooms, I'm just using white button mushrooms. So this is 450 grams of meat, and this is about 221 grams of cut up mushrooms. Then one nice sweet onion. I like to get a good size onion. This is a large onion. And then we're gonna have our noodles, which are linguine noodles. And then our salt, our pepper. I have a little olive oil, right? About 3 tablespoons of olive oil. I have some red pepper flake, garlic flake, and we're going to use this to taste. We're going to season to taste. Right in there is probably a good 4 tablespoons. We have some Parmesan, again, to finish the meal off. And then the spice mix, the sauce. I have ketchup. I'm using ketchup. I'm also using sweet chili Thai sauce, so some sweet chili Thai. And then we'll finish off with some store-bought rosé sauce. That's what I use. Simple stuff, things that you can do. You can find your grocery store and put this all together. So one of the things I didn't mention was that I buy mushrooms already cut. I mean, it's a little easier, save some time. You can cut your own mushrooms as well if that's what you like. The onion I'm just going to dice, and so we'll dice up the onion so we're getting ready for us to cook it in our meal. So just a quick dice. Just nice size pieces is what I like to go for. So we do that right there. See how these are pretty good size. And then we're gonna do the same thing over here. And sometimes what I do is I just take halves and I cut them up a little bit more, just like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to brown these in olive oil first. A little seasoning, a little salt, little garlic pepper, and then we'll add in our meat. All right, we want to get our skillet hot. We're going to pour in some olive oil. Again, I'm taking about 3 tablespoons of olive oil. And I'm running that pan about a medium high. And we'll just put in our onions first. Let's get those cooking. Hearing that sizzle, that's what you want to hear when you put your onions in, so you know that it's actually cooking. Mix that up. And so I'm just going to mix it around a little bit. And I want to get this translucent. Probably be a minute in here before I start adding the meat. Get a little. And we're looking for our salt and our pepper. We got our salt and our pepper right here. And I'm just going to add a little bit of pepper, a little pinch of pepper, just like that. And again, pinch of salt, just get that in there. Maybe a little bit more. And we're going to keep moving this around because I want to see that get translucent. That's what I'd like to see. Smells amazing. Nothing like a good onion cooked in olive oil. And like I said, this is not a hard dish to do. Anybody can do this. Don't be afraid to start cooking. I started really young. Watched my mom cook in the kitchen. After school, I would come home and I would start making dishes. You go to our website, I describe my first dish, so go on my page on Food for Rock. And you'll be surprised at what I was making when I was young, coming home after school. So we're going to let this kind of cook for a little while, and then we'll add the meat. Well, if you can see right now, our onions have gotten caramelized. You know, you got a little bit of char on there, which is what I like to see. It's going to add a lot of flavor to the dish. At this point, we're going to add our ground beef. So just get the ground beef in there. And what we're going to do is just smash that ground beef up and get it incorporated in here with the onions. And we're going to cook this for a few minutes, and then we're going to add the mushrooms as well. Now, at this point, I like to season the meat a little bit. This is where I'm going to take that pepper flake and just put some on here. And again, I like to, so the way I do this is I look at the meat and I kind of cover the whole meat, make sure that there's seasoning all over the meat. Some of you might think, oh, that's a lot. It really isn't. If you don't add flavor, it doesn't come through. A lot of people don't put enough flavor in their meals. Obviously, you can put too much, but what I just did there is just the surface of the meat. And adding that is going to cause that flavor to just kind of get enhanced with the pepper and the onion. And I just want to get some of the pinkness out of the meat. And then I'll be adding the mushrooms to get them to cook as well, because you want those mushrooms incorporated and cooked down in the meal. And don't forget to kind of scrape along the pan, get some of those onions that are around the pan into the middle as you cook. You can be thinking about your Def Leppard song that you're going to listen to and how those melodies are going to play on your tongue with the sweet flavors of this Too Late for Linguine dish. So at this point, we're going to add our mushrooms. So again, just get those mushrooms in there. And we want to sort of get them spreading around a little bit. And then start incorporating them. Start getting them in there, picking up some of those juices, some of the fat from the meat, which is very little fat since this is lean meat. If you get a fatter cut, you're going to get some of that beef fat in there, which is also flavorful for the mushrooms. But the real flavor is going to start to come when we put the sauces together. So again, just mix it. Keep an eye on it. We don't want anything burning. I still have it over at about 400 degrees or medium high. This dish doesn't usually take a very long time to make, you know. I'm going to be guessing because I've never really timed it. Now, I'm going to say there's about 20 minutes to actually cook it. And maybe another 10 minutes to prepare it. So you're looking at 30 minutes total. And then, well, obviously you got to cook the pasta. We'll cook the pasta last. And what you want to do is make the sauce first. You can let the sauce sit, doesn't matter. And I'm making more than enough for one dish. Maybe not enough for Slickfinger because he could probably eat this whole thing. But a regular person, they're going to have, you know, 3 or 4 servings of this easily. And so you can also, once the meat is finished or the sauce is finished, you can put this into the freezer and keep it for several days. So it's a good way to create a big meal if you're a single person or if you have a group of people. This is good to feed a whole family of 4. Or if you're like Slick, it's one night with Tootsie Rolls, milk, and pasta. Grown man eating Tootsie Rolls still. But, you know, teach his own. All right, that's starting to look good. If you can see, the mushrooms are starting to absorb some of that liquid. They're still firm, but we're going to cook this just a little bit more, and then we're going to add our sauce. So when I come back, you're going to see me adding the sauce. So we'll take a little break. All right, we're ready to start adding some of my sauce mixture. You can see, like if I do this, you can see that there's some fat right there off the meat. The mushrooms are starting to get a little tender. The meat's getting brown. And again, you want to cook it till you see it get a little bit brown. The mushrooms, you know, they're kind of tender. And this is the time I like to add the sauces. So, you know, this is about a half a cup of ketchup. Just about that much. I'm not great at measuring. I like just to see how it flows out. And then about the same thing, about a half a cup of that sweet chili Thai sauce. So we're going to put that in first. I'm going to mix it up. And then we'll add the rosé sauce to finish it off. So we want to incorporate all this together. Get it blended in there like a good song, where everything fits. And what I mean by that is, you know, the drums don't take away from the bass, the guitar doesn't take away from the vocals. And a good meal is sort of like that. Everything kind of has its place, tastes really good. And I try not to put way too many ingredients in a dish so that each flavor can kind of shine. Although in saying this, I know I do have like sweet and spicy and kind of a little bit of sour with the rosé. But now you can see this is kind of nice and mixed. This is where the rosé starts to come in. And again, find a rosé sauce anywhere that you shop at. And I usually empty a medium-sized jar right in there. And now I'm going to turn the heat down. I'm going to go down to about medium or medium-low. And we just let this simmer now. Let it simmer, let it mix. It's going to go this nice red color. And you can see that everything is kind of getting mixed in together. And then we're going to just use a little bit of this with some pasta. And what I like to do is I like to mix the pasta with the sauce together. I don't just put pasta in a bowl and then put the sauce on top. I like it to get it all mixed in together so that it's just it's flavorful in every bite, and you don't have to work at getting all mixed. I like to mix it so that it's ready to eat. So there you go. And now I just let that sit I'll let it sit on the stove while I start preparing the pasta. So we'll cook the pasta very quickly. I'm sure that's not something that's hard for anybody to do, but we're going to do it. We're going to show you what it's like to cook pasta. So we're just going to boil some water. I always salt the water.
Mrs. Slick told me you were making my favorite linguine.
Are you wearing a Captain Kirk housecoat?
Yeah, my Mrs. Slick and I were role-playing. You know, we like to keep it fresh. 2 decades of marriage.
You know I'm filming.
No, I did not.
Well, you're on camera now.
Scotty, get us out of here. We could use the effect.
What
And
effect?
it looked like I'm being beamed up. You know, the sparkly thing.
It doesn't work. We don't have that.
Serious?
Yeah. I told you, he smells it and he wants to eat it all. Once the boil starts to roll, we're going to add some pasta. I'm doing one portion, which kind of just fits in your fingers like this. And that's all I'm making tonight, because if I make more than that, it's going to disappear. I'm going to have a hard enough time keeping Slickfinger out of this kitchen, because I want to, I want to present it to you and show you what it looks like. So we're going to put the pasta in. I like to have the linguine whole. I don't want to break it up or anything like that. It'll start to get soft and you'll see it bend, and then we're going to keep mixing it around until we have it just slightly al dente, because I know that's what Slick likes. So that shouldn't take very long. I personally, the way I do this is I'll use a spoon, and believe it or not, I actually can feel when the pasta is at the right consistency. And I like to just swirl it around, and I can actually feel that. So we're gonna let this boil for a few minutes. Once it's boiled, we're gonna put the whole thing together. I'll put it into a bowl, we'll mix it up, and then we'll plate it. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take the linguine, we're gonna put it in our bowl. There's about 1 serving right there. And this is when we add in the meat sauce. So we'll take our meat sauce that we kept on the stove, and we're gonna put a nice amount, 2 tablespoons there. Let's do 3. There we go. We have 3 tablespoons of it. And we're gonna mix this all up. I like to have it all incorporated again. Use that word a lot, but what I mean by that is, if it is all in there, nice and flavorful with every bit of noodle, every bite will have a little bit of mushroom, hopefully a little bit of that meat sauce, some of the tomato sauce from that rosé, and it's just going to be comfortable. It's going to fill your tummy. Some people too much. So let's get ready to plate. What better way to serve Too Late for Love linguine than in a nice heart-shaped bowl? So here we go. We're gonna put that in there. Make that look nice. Wow. It just smells wonderful. And there we go. And to finish it off, we're just going to add a little bit of Parmesan there. There you have it, folks. Too Late for Linguine, or Too Late for Love. What a great dish. As it is tradition now here at Food for Rock, before we try a bite of the meal, we want to hear the song. So I'm bringing in my boombox buddy, Slickfinger. Play the song, buddy.
Bienvenido a Principiantes Español para Diablos Blancos.
That's your Spanish lesson.
No hablo.
Okay, you know what? Why don't you just at least say good night to the folks? Since you're learning Spanish, say it in Spanish.
Muy caliente.
Well, that is not good night in Spanish, but I'll say good night in English. Good night, folks. Visit us at titwinkle.com for a copy of the recipe.